In this section, we're going to talk about authenticity. We have two questions that we're going to answer for you. The first one is, do your assessment activities lead to demonstration of learning outcomes?
And I'll speak to that for my courses. As much as possible, when I design my courses in Canvas, I try to make those project-based courses so that at the end of the course, there is some kind of project that we're always working toward. And then each week, we have weekly deliverables that I'm using to measure student progress toward the objectives of the larger project, but also allows me to give some feedback along the way. So by having that end in mind at the beginning of the course and that final project, everything we're doing along the way is leading up to that to meet those objectives.
Awesome.
One of the things I always try to do is to develop authentic assessments to go with my objectives so that students are actually doing something as opposed to just being measured in terms of their knowledge. So, for example, they might be doing debates, they might be doing experiments, there might be journal entries, there might be self-assessment that goes along with this. And these are all activities to get them deeply involved in the course so that they're not just responding to an objective, but they're actually practicing what we're trying to achieve through the objective.
I guess one of the things similar to what both of you have said in my class, I really try to look at the activity and have it mirror what I want them to do. So that way they go hand in hand and there's a true value in what they're learning and that they can use it in a real world context. And Emery, you mentioned that a bit, which kind of leads us into our second question. And how do you develop a real world authentic activity that leads to the demonstration of their learning outcomes? And Emery, do you want to expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things you really want to do here is you want to make sure that your objectives and your assessments align with each other very carefully, so that when you set an objective, that your assessment matches that, so that they're in sync with one another. Because otherwise, it's very easy, I think, when people are first learning how to design an online course, that they set these objectives and then they do their assessments as something different, and they're not really tied in with each other. So all the way through the course, even though your course is designed around learning objectives and learning outcomes, you really have to think of the implementation of this on the student level, that what are they actually doing to achieve these objectives? Because the one thing to keep in mind here the whole way through with learning outcomes is there's three things. You're going to ask yourself, what do I want my students to know? How will I know that they know it? And what do I do if they didn't learn it? And that's, I think, that last thing is in some ways is the key, because you want to give them multiple opportunities to learn, not multiple opportunities to fail.
Awesome. Angie, what about you?
I think the important thing for me, especially I work primarily with graduate students too, but I think with all of my classes, is that I'm looking at how they'll actually take what we're learning in our class and apply it in their profession once they finish our program, and looking for projects that they can do that will mimic what they'll do there. And ultimately, I ask them in all their courses, their final product, I always say, make this a part of your professional portfolio, so they really are evidencing what their real world employers will ask from them. And then again, we're working on that throughout the course. They have those deliverables every week. We have a rubric for that final project from the outset of the course that's based on my objectives for the course. And it's published to them from the very beginning of the course. So they see that we're building toward this final product that will evidence that they really have met the objectives of the course and have the skills that they need in their profession.
I think that's truly important. One of the things that I've tried to do within my course is have them create something they can use later. In my partnership course, they're actually going in, they create a partnership toolkit. So throughout the 7.5 weeks that we're in class, they're adding different elements that eventually they have this toolkit that they are using for class. But once they graduate, now they have this toolkit that they can use to create partnerships with community organizations or with people that are within their different businesses. So it's designed so that way they get a chance to use it with me, but then they get a chance to kind of perfect it and then use it again once they're in their world and their area, which makes it really cool and easy. And it's the students like to do it a lot better because they feel like it has a greater good to it. So perfect. Thank you guys. And we're going to jump into the next one. So we'll see you guys in the next video.